Welcome to Shooting Straight, MayOneF.com. I'm Frank Miniter, the editor-in-chief of the NRA's America's First Freedom. Today we have the incredible pleasure of speaking with John Annoni. John, I'm trying to remember when we first met. I did a feature on you for America's First Freedom, so longtime readers of America's First Freedom will sure remember you as an elementary school teacher in Allentown, Pennsylvania, founder of Camp Compass Academy, who's just helped so many kids, John. I remember when I first met you, I think it was the second time I came to your Camp Compass Academy. I sat down with some of your students who had graduated from your program. They're older, high school age, a little older than that. And they looked me right in the eyes, several of them. They told me you saved their life through Camp Compass Academy by using hunting and shooting as an incentive to get them off the streets, to give them honor, give them integrity, give them something positive to work toward, and to bring them into the outdoors where they found peace, they found themselves, and then they were able to go on in life and do what they wanted, to follow their dreams. And it just gets me every time I think about it. They literally told me you saved their life.
You know, you said something even prior to saving their lives, that they looked you in your eyes, right? And that is a trait that we take great pride in at the Academy. You know, it's the growth of a child, right? The growth of our children, is dependent upon what we instill in them. And, by you saying, hey, they looked me in the eyes, that makes me a proud papa, right? Makes me a proud, person, because I know they're on their way, right? And that small piece is one piece of the Lego to convincing you to believe in them. And, you know, when they say that I saved their lives, I guess when I finally have time to stop and sit and think and reflect, I'll feel pretty good about that. But there's a lot more lives to save.
Well, let's step back a second, because I don't want to lose people here.
Sure.
Give an overview of Camp Compass Academy, why you started it, and what you did, how you helped these elementary school kids that go to school there in Allentown.
It has been a journey. And when I say journey, I started Camp Compass in 1994. And we've climbed many a mountains. And it was my philosophy of being able to bring Mother Nature and firearms training and firearm education, as well as hunting education and fishing education, outdoor education to children that typically don't have exposure to it. So when we first started, it was just my idea to kind of give a basic field day throughout a week in the summer to a bunch of kids who normally wouldn't have the opportunity. And I knew going in that just those one dayers wasn't going to be enough to hold on to our kids. So we eventually built a complete system of development that rewards students over time with outdoor excursions. And when I look back, starting where I starting out of the back of my truck, asking people to support in regards to what was in our community that we could use. We've climbed a heck of a mountain.
As I recall, you first started this in your elementary school, but your school wasn't comfortable with the gun training and things that were going on. So you found a sponsor to give you a classroom nearby.
Yeah. You know, if what they say, you know, when it's real, when somebody punches you in the face, the fight's real when somebody punches you in the face.
Mike Tyson, right?
And it's something where, you know, when somebody who is your employer asks you to go a different direction, but you have a set of core beliefs, there's a lot of intrinsic fighting there, right? There's a lot of, I know we in our industry talk about how good we are when we do certain things, but you know, people that are risking things, people that are risking all they have, are a different breed. And I don't say that lightly, right? Whether it's us risking our lives, whether it's us risking our livelihoods. there's a certain point and a certain piece of our inner being that feels like, hey, there are certain things that we have to do. So I had to make a decision. Hey, John, if you go fishing, it's easy. We can make this work. Man, if you want to be the devil twice, firearms and killing animals, that's not going to work. Right. And so, I decided that, I was going to continue. And I don't know if whoever may be listening believes in divine intervention, but the story's too good to be, too good to be just in my hands. We found a sponsor. We found somebody who allowed us to use a facility that they had as my classroom, as my after school academy. And we've been there for a long time. And, this man that has stepped up to help us, right? Because it takes a community of helpers to get things done. Anybody that thinks that they're running up that mountain alone is out of their minds. But I was lucky enough to have some people put some pieces of the puzzle together. And this gentleman, I got to be honest with you, that community member that gave this space wasn't even really pro firearm. He was pro kid. And we've grown together. His successes and my successes are our successes. And I think he truly feels good about what we've turned out.
I remember you telling me when you considered going fishing or only or that kind of thing, changing your program to make the school happy. As you looked at it, you just felt like that was pulling the reality out of what you needed these kids to go through in this rite of passage in order to grow into who you wanted them to become. And then you looked at your own story, and I think you remember you were telling me you'd walk out of the project and sit in this little spot of woods that you had, and you felt at peace there. And there was just something about that. And taking that realness away from these kids just wasn't going to give the kids what you needed to give them.
You interpret that absolutely correct, right? There was a piece that made me who I was. And part of that piece was going to summer camp, right? Where I would go on scholarship because my grandmother wanted to get rid of me. God bless her. And, having the opportunity to watch people shoot. And at that point in time, I was too young, so all I could do is view, but it's almost like that young puppy where you're like, someday, that day finally happened. And I found out some things about myself, and was able to carry that with me. And, even in high school, when I shot rifle for the rifle team, it was unheard of a kid. People can make fun of a city kid all you want, right? In regards to guns and shooting and however you may have it. But the opportunity to compete with something that I could control, to me, was the best chance I had at winning in life. And that's what firearms did for me growing up. And now my firearms, introduction and use, they're tools of trust, and I'll say that again and again and again. My firearms, the firearms that we use and we train with are tools of trust. And, I'm glad that somebody trusted me along the way when I was a youth growing up to have the opportunity to grow, as what I give back to my kids right now.
I remember coming to your classroom and seeing you had all these elementary school kids in there, and you didn't have guns out in the classroom. You had a shooting simulator, but you were helping them with their schoolwork and pushing them and using hunting and shooting as incentives one step at a time to get them into the field, to get them to help them grow up and help them become, well, all that they would become. That was surprising to me, actually, that first that schoolwork, bringing that, I mean, that's a very Boy Scoutish thing to do. Then to bring them into the field and to grow them that way.
Well, it's a very integral piece of growing somebody, right? And I know a lot of our programs, and I may have been critical, and I still am critical about the immediate, hey, let's get this done in 6 hours, right? But that's not the way that my team, that's not the way my community does things when it revolves around firearms. There's a process and a procedure to growing kids into that right to use, into the opportunity to use, and into the process of growing. And you're absolutely right. That simulator is more valuable sometimes than the actual firearm. And the reason that I say that is I can get a kid 300 squeezes in 2 days compared to one shot on a deer. Right. And, so that training, that understanding, that integration of the firearm into a lifestyle, is very important to me because ultimately I'm responsible for it. Right. If I'm teaching, I'm going to be the one to get the success, but I'm also going to be the one to get the blame. And right now, we as firearm owners can't afford any more blaming. We need more success. And if my system and my training philosophy can help other people garner more success after proving it after all these years, right? Then that's what we do. But it's a different fight when you have your own child and you can decide to give them the right to squeeze a trigger compared to somebody else giving you their child and you preparing them to squeeze a trigger.
When I train, I always start people on a plastic gun. They need to learn not to put their finger on the trigger, the basic rules of gun safety. Once they start to internalize those things, you can introduce them and take them a step further and further as you go. But right, you don't just throw them right into it, especially when you're dealing with youth, with young kids, elementary school kids especially.
Well, and you're dealing with a taboo topic that many people are afraid of, right?
Well, let's jump into that because that's really important. I started this by saying, some of your kids told me you saved their life. And the background of that is Allentown, it's a nice community, but it does have gang issues. It does have some bad neighborhoods. And these kids are being exposed to that. And their parents then are certainly being exposed to that. And a lot of the parents you're dealing with or have been dealing with didn't grow up as gun owners. The guns they're seeing are on the nightly news. They're on police officers, or maybe they're even on gang members in the streets around them. I've always wondered, how did you convince so many parents that you could help their kids by showing them how to shoot?
Well, first of all, I'm a role model, right? First of all, I'm a role model first. And I'm proud to say that actually, I don't think I've ever come out in an interview and said, you know what, I am a role model. Right. And the opportunity to be an educated or an educator and role model, like, raises the bar, right? Because now, I'm able to say, hey, we're teaching about all these different things. We're teaching about sex. We're talking about drugs, all these things that can kill you, but firearms, we're not allowed to talk to. We're not allowed to talk about. Right. And there was something about that dynamic that bothered me because once again, I'm an educator and it's my job to open up a box for the people that I come to touch with. And, when I'm able to talk to a parent and really garners their trueness, I can then give them a trueness back to say, hey, there's a two-sided coin here. Do we always want our child looking at one side of the coin? Right? Now, most sides would say that. Yeah, absolutely. We want them looking at our side. We want them looking at the head side. That's all we want. Or the tail side. But I have to look and I have to say, you're already seeing the bad. You're already that society's giving you the bad. So give me a chance to give you the good. Give me a fair shot. Give me a 50-50 chance when we flip this coin that it might land on our side. And I think the trueness of that and the realness of that and the appreciation that I receive back from parents in regards to loving their kid first and wanting what's best for their kid, because there may be an opportunity for a kid to shoot and I might say, hey, you're not ready. Child's not ready. Right. and there's the correctiveness of that down the road becomes appreciative. But let me make this very clear. I am in the business of loving my students and wanting what's best for them. And I just happen to believe that the opportunity to learn about yourself is the most precious thing that you can do. And I just happen to do that with firearm training.
When I first came to Camp Compass Academy, 10 years ago, so you'd already been going for a long time at that point. And it was, if I recall correctly, it was very competitive to get in. A lot of parents wanted their kids in there because those kids tended to do a lot better at school because all you were doing for them. And then that incentive and that getting out stuff and all that beautiful stuff you were doing with them, they were sold. I mean, they got it. So by the time I saw you, your local parents, your local community was behind you and had gotten it. You earned that respect. So I guess I was wondering how in the beginning you got them to talk them into it. It couldn't have been easy.
Oh, you know what? It was not easy. In fact, many people thought I was absolutely out of my mind, right? Many people closed doors on me. Many people, even down to the insurance company saying, hey, there's no way we can insure an inner city firearm kid program. There's just no way that this is going to happen. I mean, I've got stories out the kazoo in regards to that. I convinced parents that I wanted what was best for their children. The same thing that they wanted. And if I could give them an additional home, if I could give them an additional opportunity that was worthy of their children, then they were willing to give me their children. And it's no different than a gang. I mean, a gang will figure out a way to grab a kid, right? But us good guys can't find ways to grab kids. Yeah, and when to bring kids into a culture that is that we will rely upon for forever, and that's what bothers me is the soft sell in regards to, hey, we can't get this done because gangs are getting it done. So let's just knock off, like, hey, let's stop picking the low-lying fruit. At some point in time, we're going to have to find people outside of the people that are already in this domain to talk to, right? And if you don't know how to talk to them, right? You don't think a gang recruiter knows how to talk to people? Sure they do. Sure they do. Same way somebody that recruits for the military. Sure they do. You're
bridging a cultural divide that I think this is why it's always so exciting to talk to you. Right? The love you have for your students is part of that and all those other things. But this ability that you've shown to bridge that divide, it's not easy. And the reporting I do, I've spoken whenever I can to people with a very different point of view. And often we end up talking past each other, even though I'm trying to bring them in and trying to listen to them. I'll say something and it'll baffle them and they'll shut me down instead of engaging and trying to come to the center. It's really hard to find that common ground. You've been able to do it with shooting in an inner city. It's just incredible.
You know what, Frank, that's very kind of you. And sometimes I don't really reflect on it because you're always in the do. You don't really, you just, it's almost like, how does Michael Jordan shoot a free throw? You don't think about it. He just does it. Right. So for me, I don't really assess. I just come with a pure sense of help. A pure sense of help and a pure sense of hope. And, if a parent says, hey, I don't want my child being with you, then I have to respect that as much as I have a parent that says, hey, I want my kid to be with you. You know what I mean? So we look and we go, if those kids are in the middle, right? And one parent says, hey, I don't want a kid to be with you, but one says we do. Well, we better damn well hold on to this one that says they do. And that's been one of my goals. And the neatest thing is when instead of me having to hold on to them, they hold on to me. They hold on to us. And it takes a lot of times. It takes a lot of diligence. It takes a lot of preparation, planning, and willingness to say, I don't need an immediate return on this. I don't need to say that 160 kids shot today. Were shot in I don't need to be able to say that. What I need to be able to say is, I sent a kid home who feels like Mr. Annoni cares about me, and I'm not going to do anything to disappoint him. And with that comes good decisions.
And this is so important on the gun front. I mean, this is why the NRA's had Eddie Eagle program for so long, teaching kids what to do if they do come across a firearm. We can't just protect our kids with safe spaces. We have to show them this is reality. It's out of the box. This is where it is. And it's a constitutional right for a reason. You can't hide kids from this. So it's so important that you are able to bring these kids in instead of, I mean, I don't know how many parents said no to you, but I don't know. I don't think I could say no to you. It wouldn't be easy. You're a very engaging guy. But it's just so critical that you have been able to touch these different households through all these generations.
Well, I can only do, we always say, hey, John Annoni, if we could clone you, we could clone you. Things would be great. But, I've done the best job I could for my kids and for the niches that I care about, which is the outdoors. I've done the best I could to try to make the most of my life.
But you're about to explode upward. And this is what we need to get you here. And this is so important because, I mean, the Biden administration signed in 2022, right? This Bipartisan Safer Communities Act that they've used semantically to take funds away from schools that have archery programs, shooting programs, these hunting programs that kids enjoy, that to trying to do some of the things that you do so well. It's under attack culturally in our school system because of the Biden administration. And this is what's going on right now. Meanwhile, you're at the end of this year, you're retiring and you're doing other things in order to try to bring your thing more nationally. So you're again in the middle of this cultural divide, and you're in such an important place in this intersection you're at. I mean, first, what do you think what the Biden administration just did? I can only imagine. And then how do we counter it?
Well, you know what? I was shooting archery in the schools 30 years ago. And one of the neatest, I'll just tell the story. Hey, my kids, I had so many kids wanting to shoot archery that, I didn't know what to do with them. We started bringing more kids and they were just producing. They were coming to school on time. And you know what I said? You know what we're going to do? We're going to shoot 3D targets because I'm going to teach you how to score. And we're going to use that to develop math skills. Well, another teacher came in. Annoni has kids shooting pigs in the gym. Well, it was a pig target, and there was deer targets there. Why she focused on the pigs, I don't know. But, and so what happens is somebody's not happy. The principal comes in and says, hey, John, shut it down. So for the good of one, the good of many paid, right? And that never really sat well with me. So that lesson I kind of took and said, you know what? I'm going to find a way. And I think that's what it is. It's the will to win that we need to have on our side. The will to win, the pursuit of not necessarily perfection, but the pursuit of perfecting our passion so that things can move forward. Now, for me, you're absolutely right. This is my last year of teaching. I'm 35 years in. And, I'm at a crossroads, and I've had a lot of people talk to me, had some wonderful people that I spent some time with, my ICBO 30 team, out of, in conjunction with Cornell. And, they convinced me, they kind of put me on the spot and said, hey, John, look, you can do for the rest of your life, you can do your 60 kids. But at some point, you need to do 600. And how does that happen? Well, it happens, they're not going to be my kids anymore. They're going to be our kids. So it happens by me training and me helping others in their community start to learn how to elongate their kids, start to learn how to discuss things with the community, start to implement our perfect passion, right, towards helping. And And I know a lot of times people say, well, it's not just kids. My focus is kids, right? Somebody else that wants to focus on adolescents or adults, that's fine. But I happen to work with families with children. And, the return there isn't immediate, because the kid's not going to go out, that's 12 and go out and buy a hunting license. The family might for them, but my process is a slow burn, so, the opportunity to move into communities, not put Camp Compass we don't want a Camp Compass in every community. What we want is the philosophy of Camp Compass and the philosophy of what we built shared with communities so that they can pick pieces apart and say, you know what, this will work in our community. We want to make our community stronger by being in them. And it looks like now that I'm going to be retired, I'm supposed to stop working, but it looks like, that's where we're headed, to help other communities start to implement elongation programs, lengthy programs, so that we can continue to grow our kids into our culture, just like gangs do. You don't think gangs work with kids for a day? Come on.
No, but you're bringing a code in that's universal, that humbles them and grows them and is very accepting. Whereas a gang comes in with a culture and a code that it's insular. It's us against them, which is not at all what you're doing. It's completely the opposite.
Well,
so
the world got to be 51% good guys or we lose,
Right.
and for me, where I do my work and where I've been blessed to journey has been the hardest road. I mean, let's face it. We've done what many people have never been able to do. And we've done it well for a long time. It's just up to me now to help others do it well. And I think that's where we're headed.
Now you're starting a website called huntingawareness.com. Is that right?
Yeah. It's been around for a while. I did some research with some people at Cornell University, through a National Science Foundation grant. And we were working on museums. Why are museums dying? And I started looking and going, it's the same with us. Why are we dying? Like, wait a second. There were some parallels. So I asked permission to go a little deeper from my group of people, community organizations that were doing the research together, and found some very big similarities in where we were headed as gun owners and hunters, and made a decision to bring into play what we would say an orange camouflage ribbon, to be able to not only talk about, but actually show people that you're in for the community good. And with that, there's a lot of opportunity to raise money in communities to help those communities do more good. So, I thought I was finished, but I think God has some more on my plate. And, the opportunity to serve has been a promise that I will continue to try to keep.
Well, what structure are you giving them to learn this? I mean, like the Boy Scout manuals, and I was a den leader for years, and they were brilliant. I mean, you can go through and here's the lessons we're going to do, and these are the exercises, this is what we need to learn, and you could follow that, and you got certain patches, and it took you along a path. It was very well thought out. What structure are you giving so that hopefully you can see other Camp Compass like groups start around the nation?
Correct. The structure, and this is one of the neatest things, where we're not coming in and saying, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. What we're doing is coming in to look at the structure of community programs to say, hey, here are your pros. Here are your cons. It's almost like assessing a fighter, right? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then what we say is, where do you want to get to? So instead of having that manual that's A to Z, where we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're probably, or we look and we say, hey, you've got 1 through 6 with, or A through G, and now you're down here at Z. There's a gap here. Where can we look to fill it? Because the last thing we want to do is come into somebody's community and go, this is the way you should do it. That's not the right way to approach it. We want the community to say, hey, this is what we're trying. This is where we'd like to get to. Then we can apply the quote unquote philosophy and manual. But we will not come into a community and say, unlike old school, hey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because one, those people that are working in those communities have put passion into that. And how dare we say that your passion isn't good enough? Your work isn't good enough. What we will say is, hey, can we get stronger on a weak point? Can we continue to exploit your strengths and allow those communities to ebb and flow? Because that's what's needed, especially with controversial topics, right? Because these people that are giving, right? The last thing they want to hear is, hey, you're not good enough. This isn't good enough. What they want to hear is, well, what we believe they want to hear is, and what I would want to hear is, hey, tell me where I'm good, tell me where I'm bad, and help me become a better fighter. And that's what our goal is. If that makes sense.
Come in as a consultant and look at their program one-on-one.
But you know what?
Tailor it.
A consultant is, that has such a takeaway. I want to give. We want to give. Consultants usually, they give, but they take. And our priority is on giving. And for us, it's almost more becoming a coach. Deion Sanders right now, right? Deion Sanders, great athlete, baseball player, professional football player. What's he doing right now? Right? He knows he can't play anymore. I know I'm getting older, right? And I know those 2-hour, 3-hour drives and those 7-day weeks, for 6 weeks in a row are starting to take its toll on me. But what's Deion doing right now? He's coaching, right? That's his way of giving back. So for me, that's the way I'm headed. I'm going to end up.
You're an outdoor shooting coach, shooting an outdoor coach for kids, and especially for kids who they're not from a small town. They're not exposed to the hunting and fishing very much. I mean, probably a small town in Iowa doesn't need you in that same way. Whereas Des Moines, I've been downtown Des Moines, probably a lot of kids there would do.
And that's where the opportunity to assess, to step into somebody else's community and look and go, hey, you've done, because this work is non-rewarding a lot of times. And people who've got the gloves on need a pat on the back every once in a while. They need that. Are we doing okay? And they also need, hey, maybe we should try this over here. But it comes down to funding, once again too, is, hey, what can be done? What are you looking to do? And that's another reason that we came up with hunting awareness, because you can now raise funds with our orange ribbon in your community. Okay. And do more good with it, right? Because everybody's always looking and go, well, I can't do this without money. I can't do it because I was the same way. How do I get this done without money? So now we're looking and going, if you get a group of common, caring people under this orange ribbon, everybody understands where we're going with it in regards to trying to move the needle for the betterment of our culture. And we can then move forward. And what happens is what I'm told is, if I can start to light fires in a lot of different communities, the Camp Compass philosophy will spread, but so will our culture in a positive way.
Right. This culture is out there and across America, but unfortunately it's under attack from the Biden administration right now. And it's misunderstood in the mainstream media way too much as something that's nefarious or bad, that so many people own guns in this country and go hunting and all the things we do, when these people aren't causing problems that are going hunting on their weekends and so on, and taking their kids out. More and more when I do talk to kids, even from New York City, who get to go out and do this, they tell me that they didn't do those things because they were out doing these outdoor activities. It gave them something else to do, and it gave them something to grow up to. At the close of this, because I don't think we've humanized this quite right, and I've seen this transformation in Camp Compass Academy in your kids, and when I've met the different generations there. And give me a picture, give people listening a picture of, you get that kid, he first comes in and he's got a lot growing up to do, and he has a lot to learn. And there's this transformation through this rite of passage you take these kids through. At the end, they're more confident. They know what they want. They've achieved these goals. They're a part of this group, which is any rite of passage. You have to end up joining a group. There's a code of values, and you grow up and end up joining a group that you've given them. So they've grown through this. You just paint that for somebody? What transformation do you see these kids go through?
I don't want to. I'll use an analogy, and anybody that has owned and groomed a hunting dog, right, will understand the process that I have to go through with each child, okay, in each family. You know, a dog, right? A dog, could bite you. A dog could end up being a field trial champion, right? But that's based on what's given to that dog and that time. And then we know that, you know, today, for instance, I had a kid come in and look, and they're like, these animals, are they real? Can I touch them? And I look and I go, pointer puppy, that dog's pointing, right? And how dare I, as an educator, not be able to look and say to the kid, you know what? If that's what makes you tick, if that's what's piquing your interest, well, then let me help you along with it. And what will happen is some dogs, and I'm not trying to make light of calling a kid a dog, just using an analogy, but some dogs will just turn into good house dogs, right? And that is the best thing ever, right? Because good house dogs are freaking awesome, right? But then you'll have your dogs that'll field trial, and you have your dogs that'll be champions. And we just happen to have a lot of champions because we're willing to put the time in to grow, right? Our system is based on that. The growth and development of youth, not just a one-day deal. And it's a great place to start. But I look and I go and I challenge people. Hey, if you think your one-day event is good, get me 10 kids out of that one-day event who you think are the best and hold on to them for a year, right? Let's check grades. Let's go to dinners. Let's do all these things that we need to do to be able to elongate and lengthen this life out so that they look and go, wow, they invested in me. I don't think we're spending enough time investing into a lot of our communities. We want things to happen immediately. And unfortunately, man, if you don't build the foundation right, the house falls.
The number of fatherless homes now, especially in inner cities at this point, it's just so critical. We do something to give them positive avenues.
Well, I can tell you what, I'm exhausted being everybody's dad. I can tell you that much. I mean, you gotta, it's different. It's one thing when you're a superstar and you're signing an autograph and then off you go to your house. But when you give people true, pure access, it's taxing. And you can ask my family, it's taxing. However, this is what I've been called to do. This is what I've been successful at, or we've been successful at, not just me. We've been successful at, and this is what we're going to keep doing, hopefully across the country. And once again, being retired, we'll have a little more time now because I was running the academy and teaching full time. Not an easy thing to do.
I remember, this is an anecdote, you could fill in the blanks here, but I remember you had a kid who very unfortunately was dying of cancer. But he got to a certain level and you wanted to give him an experience you couldn't give him. So I think you set up a fake turkey outside of his window on a line and gave him a Nerf gun and had you gobbled and did the whole bit and he hunted a turkey. Because
you know what? We were hell bent on giving this kid a turkey hunt before he moved on. And he was hell bent about going on a turkey hunt before he moved on. And, unfortunately, cancer, put him in the bed. Right. And we decided that, we were going to, in the middle of the city, we took a turkey decoy and played some turkey sounds and hoisted that turkey up to his window and opened that window up. And we went on a turkey hunt. If anybody wants to check that out, you look up Zakai Goes Turkey Hunting. And that was some years ago, but I can tell you, that young man never shot a gun but he shot a crossbow, right? Couldn't handle recoil because of ports, and we were able to move him towards being able to actually hunt. And he shot a crossbow. And while a crossbow is not a gun, it is something that bridges a lot of different genres. And that student learned the discipline of shooting through that crossbow. You can learn the discipline of shooting through things other than shooting. And I think that's what we need to bring to the world. That there are lots of ways, just like there are lots of ways to teach shooting without shooting, just like there's a lot of ways to teach education while shooting. Right? And I think we need to discuss that and share that some more. And from there, the sky is the limit if we're hungry enough.
Tell everyone listening. I mean, where can they find you? How can they help you?
They can find me under a rock where I'm hiding. But no. You can find us at campcompass.org or huntingawareness.com or johnannoni.com. Any of those three, or just Google my name and something will pop up. And, I think in regards to helping, and I've had some great NRA members step up, don't want anything other than, hey, John Annoni, go win. And if they are within earshot, not saying, but there have been a bunch of them. If they are within earshot, I hope that we've served you well. I hope we've made you proud, and I hope the children that are in your communities that came through Camp Compass continue to be leaders, not only on the firing line, but in all of society.
Well, thank you, John.
Oh, no, thank you. Because if you don't take the time to ask questions, I don't have anybody to talk to and no way to get the message out. But for real, Frank, it's been a great bunch of years, and I appreciate you believing, and we'll continue to do what we can do to make our communities and our culture strong.
And thank you, John.
Thank you.